What's your headline here of all this news from Dina Bass and our team?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, our team did a great job breaking this story. And I should say, there are caveats in the story where they say it's not a done deal yet, but that the board looks like to make this decision. Okay, so I think, you know, an inside job is really the right way to look at this. This is a guy who has credibility within Microsoft, number one. And I think Microsoft is a place where famously it's hard to work to run divisions because the other divisions are gunning for you. There are stories at Microsoft about divisions developing their own software that exists across the compound because they don't have to deal with the other parts of Microsoft because of the environment, the political environment within the company at Redmond is so difficult. Was
Mr. Nadella active in Ballmer's idea of one Microsoft?
You know, I think it's a great question. He certainly got bumped up within the recent reorg, but he's, to me, throughout this process, when I've looked at the different candidates arise, I've seen the different visions of the future of Microsoft. And in Satya Nadella, what you saw, for example, El Malali, right, his name was bantered about. This was a guy who was going to come in and solve the corporate problems of the divisions battling between themselves. In Satya Nadella, what you've got is a guy who's really been focused on enterprise. And what Microsoft is really struggling with is a post-PC world, right? Their entire business has been developed on the back of Windows. Microsoft Office, a dominant product, developed because their Windows operating system monopoly is so powerful. So now you have a world where the entire computing industry has gone away from the PC.
This guy's a cloud guy.
He's a cloud guy, and as a result, he's also an enterprise guy. And I think that Microsoft recognizes this is more likely their future than selling desktop software.
But is it actually that, sort of betting on enterprise and stuff like that, versus no one else wanted the job? I mean, it took him a long time to come to this conclusion, and we saw a list of CEOs say, I'm not interested.
A lot of people want that job, and a lot of people at Microsoft want that job. Let me posit an argument that the most important company in all of the world's enterprise computing is in the Seattle area, and it's Amazon. Because Amazon's web services is completely changing everything about technology, and it's happening right at the back door of Microsoft, and they've been missing that opportunity, except for Satya Nadella's
Okay, let's rip up the script here. You've been so good on a cross-section of companies. I was fascinated by Amazon's earnings report last night. To me, it was a sea change. Gene Munster called it a sea change here. What was the dynamic of Fortress Bezos you noticed last night?
Well, to me, I saw a lot of the same, right? I saw a company that has massive revenue growth, faster revenue growth than not only the rest of consumer products, but also faster revenue growth than everything else on the internet.
And gross margins up amid the gloom.
Yes, gross margins up, but barely. I mean, the fourth quarter gross margins for Amazon should be fantastic. I mean, this is a company that does not aim to make money.
I want to go back to Microsoft for a moment because this is still something big that's been percolating. Bill Gates was on Bloomberg Television not so long ago, and Betty Lou asked him about the prospect of returning to Microsoft. This is what he said.
My full-time work will be the foundation for the rest of my life. My wife Melinda are enjoying that. You know, I get to do it in depth. So I'm not going to change that, although I'll help out part-time.
So he politely deflected, but here's the thing. Microsoft has only had two CEOs in its history, Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer. It's hard to think that Gates is going to remove his presence completely. He'll still be active, right? They're
still on the board. They're two of the largest shareholders. And I think most importantly, they did a reorg of the entire business within the last year.
With his blessing?
Of course, obviously with his blessing. You can't make changes at Microsoft without Steve and Bill agreeing on this thing. And so I think that picking Satya Nadella means that they're going to continue on the decisions that they've already made about the future of the company, including the acquisition of Nokia, including the dividend and share buyback things that they've been going through, as well as the corporate focus of the business. So I think that the chances, for example, that they spin off Xbox, which a lot of people have called for, unlikely.
Unlikely. Does promoting an insider like Satya Nadella reduce the likelihood of a brain drain? I mean, there's a talent war out there, and Microsoft has not been exactly the most appealing place for people to go to.
Or do people get upset? And
you see, the thing about Microsoft is actually people stay there. People stay there
for lifers.
People stay there, they're lifers there. And I think that's actually one of the big issues there, that you make an entire 20, 30-year career because you were the one that invented the save button. And that's your career signal achievement. People refer to you in the hallway. That's the guy that did the save button.
Right.
So it's a very different environment, even within Seattle, than places like Amazon or Real Networks or other big tech companies up there. Costco, I should mention as well.
Well, speaking of Bloomberg TV, we also spoke to Satya Nadella just last month. Here he is on new growth.
Really the new growth, if you look at what happened even in the last quarter in terms of our cloud, it grew over 100%. We have over 50% of the Fortune 500 using Windows Azure. Office 365 is already on a run rate of $1.5 billion. So that's the kind of new growth that we are seeing as this $2 trillion of IT spend is going through a fundamental shift.
So new growth, that's a great point, but what about the new style at Microsoft, right? I mean, he was around when sort of each operation ran its own company and they really competed against each other. Can he really infuse a new style to the company?
Well, I think a focus on enterprise will be interesting. And you mentioned John Thompson as well. I mean, John's a friend of mine, but when he ran Symantec, he was a part owner of the Golden State Warriors recently.
Right.
Selling out to the current ownership group. And I think that focus on enterprise, especially if John Thompson steps up to a temporary chairman role, will be a greater emphasis as time goes on.